Do you think research papers on history, science, and etc. can be manipulated to serve any agenda like media, etc.? And if yes, how can we know anything is true? Well. Yes, yes, history papers can be manipulated. Okay, let's talk about history first. History papers can be manipulated. What you do is this: you have your selected historians who are in positions in the top universities in your country. Let's say we're talking about India, for example. So they'll be in JNU and various other institutions, universities, and in the humanities, in the history departments, there is a stranglehold of the left. So they'll all have a certain agenda. Now, let's say they want to construct some kind of narrative about Indian history, right? So they will have somebody write a research paper, one person, with a very spurious conclusion, fake history. Like you have fake news, they'll write a paper which has fake history, one paper, and then that paper will somehow get published in a research journal, for example. Okay. For instance, right now there's this Manipur crisis happening, right? And there is this alleged Anglo-Cookie war apparently that happened. No such war happened. Okay, the cookies were on the side of the Anglos, of the British occupiers of India. They were their servants. But apparently nowadays there is this claim that there was an Anglo-Cookie war that happened. So how do you make this apparently a reality? You have somebody write a research paper about this fake war, and it somehow gets published in some journal. Then you have 10 more researchers cite that paper and write more papers about this so-called Anglo-Cookie war. And then you force students who are doing their PhD to cite those papers, those 10, 11 papers. And then after a few years, you have hundreds of papers that are all based on one initial fake history paper. And that's how you manufacture fake history. And then it gets cited in books, and you can write books about this. And you can do PhD theses on these things, and that's how fake history gets manufactured. I'm just giving one example of this fake Anglo-Cookie war, which never happened. But we know that our entire history has been misrepresented by our historians. That Aurangzeb was a saint and whatnot, right? The British they came here to serve India, and they did so much great things, so many good things for India, and so on and so forth. And certain compromised traitors were actually great freedom fighters, allegedly. So you manufacture fake history like this. So of course, history research papers can be manipulated. When it comes to science, it's a little more difficult. But there is what do you call the replication crisis in science. So a significant percentage of research papers on scientific subjects and technical subjects, engineering, etc., applied science, whatever, they can't be replicated. The results of these papers are not replicable, which means that these papers are spurious. There's a replication crisis in science right now. So even that can't be trusted these days. Fortunately, the kind of science I'm into is pure theoretical physics, which is very hard to, well, in that case, there's no replication of theories, of course. The theories obviously eventually have to yield predictions, and those predictions can be tested. And right now we are at a crisis in physics also. That's a whole different thing. But when it comes to science, biology, biochemistry, nanotechnology, semiconducting, genetics, etc., there's a replication crisis. And let's not even speak about the coronavirus, shall we? So today, so many scientists are compromised that it's very hard to believe them and to believe that research. It doesn't mean science is wrong. It means those people are compromised, and those research journals are compromised, and the whole system is compromised. There's a lack of academic integrity. It doesn't mean there's a problem with science. There's a problem with these individuals who claim to be scientists. And that's why so many scientists are escaping from academia and going into various industries. That's the crisis you're facing. So, and this has been around for a very long time. Let's talk about the US. Okay, there was a time in the 1950s, 60s, etc., when doctors, medical doctors who had taken the Hippocratic oath to do no harm, they used to endorse cigarette brands. Cigarette brands. I mean, you can look it up on Google. They used to endorse cigarette brands. They used to even endorse cigarettes that had asbestos filters. Asbestos plus, I mean, tobacco itself is harmful enough. Now you're making people inhale asbestos fibers. Asbestos causes mesothelioma in various kinds of, it's a kind of cancer, extraordinarily aggressive form of cancer that affects the lungs, apparently. Lungs, I think, yeah. So that's the kind of thing you had. And then the American diet, right? Which is approved by the FDA or whatever, right? The Surgeon General and whatnot. The American diet places a tremendous amount of the official government mandated, government sanctioned American diet. It places a tremendous amount of emphasis on processed carbohydrates. You know how people get fat and obese? Not by eating fat. You get fat and obese by eating processed carbohydrates in large quantities. And the more you eat that, the more you crave that. Pasta and breads and whatnot. And all that is mandated. And sugar is apparently good. Sugar is what causes most of these problems. Sugar causes cancers. Cancer cells feed on sugar, glucose. You starve the body of sugar, cancer cells can't replicate and thrive. So there's so much manipulation that has happened, which is why people no longer trust science. And then these people, they say, trust the science. Science is not about trusting. Science is never about trust. Science is about skepticism. Science is about questioning. Don't trust the science. Question the science. That's how scientific progress happens. If you don't question the status quo, you'll never have progress in science. How did quantum mechanics come about? How did everything come about? All the technological advances and all that. Through questioning, by being skeptical. How dare you question Isaac Newton? Because you should question everything. And in India, with the situation, the mindset is that you can't question people in authority. Don't question what's in the textbooks. Low IQ behavior, right? You have to constantly reassess what's happening. So what if your great professor said something? He or she could be wrong. So that's the problem. And that's why people are finding it increasingly difficult to trust the science, trust history, trust the news, trust anything, because everything is propaganda. That's the sad state of affairs. Maybe India should take the lead and clean up the academic system. I've been saying this for how many years? Am I an enemy of India? Am I not a well-wisher of my country, my civilization, my people? But no. I guess I'll just keep on saying it until my last day. Please reform the education system. Please reform academia. But not happening. Not happening. Sad.